Quite a novel idea to invite the fans out of the stands and to meet the guys that they're going to watch in action this afternoon. Well, the guy who's going to provide some of the action for us here on 7 is Allan Moffat. And Allan, we have the Sierra show here so far.
Yes, it's looking that way, Mike, with Dick Johnson on pole and the Peter Jackson team looking extremely aggressive. The Nissans are a little bit further back on the grid today, but it's a long way to go around here at Sandown.
If you had to put your money on anyone at this stage, given the fact that the Nissans might be playing their best cards later, who would you go for?
I like Dick Johnson's chances here at the moment. He's fired up, he's ready to go. He's always liked Sandown. The car seems to be really suited to the circuit today. They've got their diff just spot on, and I've got a few bucks on Dick Johnson today.
Oh, good on you. I might get on him myself. I'll tell you what, when we left here last night, John Bowe, Dick Johnson's team partner, had pole position. But the trophy dash on Sunday morning brought a different result. John Bowe had the front row, but failed to finish when he blew an engine. And in the gallop to the flag, it was Dick Johnson who came up with a win, and that gives him pole today. Let's go down to Andy Raymond, who's with Dick.
Thanks, Mike. And Dick, John Bowe's bad luck has turned into your good luck.
It would have been nice to be 1-2 on the front row, though, but that's the way it goes. He had a little bit of a mishap this morning, which I think stretched the Conrod belt, but other than that, I think he'll be out in the race, and I think he'll do a damn good job from where he is.
It was a pretty exciting and rough and tumble 3 laps. Is it going to be like that for 2 heats today?
I reckon 20 laps is going to be taking a fair bit out of us somehow, because I think that's the sort of racing we're going to see all year.
Well, we sincerely hope so. The drivers are buckling up at the moment for heat number 1 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship here at Sandown. And to take a look at the grid, it's good afternoon to Mark Oastler.
Dick Johnson off pole position in the Shell Sierra. Out of position 2, we'll have Glenn Seton in the Peter Jackson Sierra. Out of position 3, his teammate Wayne Park in the second of the Sierras. Jim Richards in the first of the GTRs out of position 4, with his teammate Mark Skaife out of position 5. Position 6, John Bowe, the second of the Shell Sierras. Out of position 7, Mark Gibbs in another Nissan GTR. Out of 8, Thomas Mazira in the HRT Commodore. Out of position 9, Colin Bond in the Caltech Sierra. And rounding up the 10, Larry Perkins in the Commodore VL. Position 11, 05, Peter Brock in the Mobile Commodore. Position 12, Tony Longhurst in the little BMW. 13, Neil Cropton in the Mobile 1 Commodore. 14, Allan Jones in the second BMW. And rounding out the 15, Terry Finnegan in the Foodtown Commodore.
And a tremendous atmosphere settling over a very, very big crowd here at Sandown this afternoon, and it's getting bigger all the time. We have Dick Johnson on pole position, as Marcus pointed out. We've heard from Dick. Glenn Seton's ready to go. We're 10 away from round 2, heat 1 this afternoon. And the Sierra's looking good at Sandown. Off to the start, the 2 Nissans just light up the racetrack, and they are long gone down into turn number 1. The Sierra sat there buzzing wheels, trying to get off the mark. They couldn't do it. The 2 Nissans will lead them down to the right left, with probably a very, very short break over Dick Johnson. And yes, that's the way it is. Hard to get all that power through those fairly narrow tyres, Allan.
Sierras, admittedly, the GTRs also have the turbo problem, but with the traction of the 4-wheel drive, it just absolutely slingshots them from any position they're in.
Look at this, up on the outside, we're talking about horsepower, and that's how quick the Sierras have been here since Friday at Sandown, as Johnson, with a huge cheer coming up the crowd, sits in behind Jimmy Richards. And there's our Dunlop race cam as we come up to the inside.
Make no mistake, this Turbo Ford is still a pretty fast car, and certainly in Dick Johnson's hands, a very effective tool around Sandown.
Great shot.
As Allan said earlier in the day, Dick really loves this circuit.
Yes, the opportunity now for Dick to slingshot onto the main straight. He's got a fairly big car in front of him, and his ability to draft the Nissan on the straight. I think you'll find under brakes he'll nail him.
Well, here they come, past the start-finishing line for the first time. And Johnson, sitting in the draft to Jim Richards, pulls to the outside, and there he goes. But Richards comes back under brakes. Crowd got a huge thrill out of that. Johnson tacks in behind the Winfield Nissan. Great shots here from our Dunlop race camp. And John Bowe, in the second of the Dick Johnson cars, has made a brilliant start. Keeping in mind, John was the fastest man here yesterday. Car packed up this morning in the 3-lap trophy dash, blew an engine. They've repaired an engine in just over an hour, and he's back and playing rear gunner here. And now comes up the outside of Johnson.
No, they're doing well. I was surprised that Dick didn't get Jim at the end of that straight. He was looking in a very good position, but the brakes on the GTR are superb. and Jim was able to hold him off. This is a tricky part of the circuit, very tricky. Whistling down through the S's. A tight left-hander here. No chance for any passing in this position. But John Bowe has already replaced Dick as a challenge to Jim Richards, and we'll see how it unfolds coming up onto the straight this lap.
It's a very spirited run from John Bowe. He really has been the pace man in the opening rounds of the Shell Touring Car Championship this year. He was fastest in both sessions at Sandown in qualifying, and climbed onto a provisional pole with a blistering lap yesterday, only to lose it in the clash for cash this morning.
Here he comes. Down the outside as we take the Nissan race cam. And Jimmy Richards will now try and come back under brakes, but John had that sussed out fairly well. He took him early in the straight, didn't wait till the last moment. So John Bowe of Tasmania leads heat number 1 today, round 2 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. Richards runs in second. Next is Dick Johnson and Mark Skaife in 4th place. This is where the Sierras like it, obviously, Alan, when you get them straight and you've got a long straight to play with.
Exactly, and here we have again an opportunity for the Peter Jackson team to stay in the hunt. They've got to stay close to those Nissans, take advantage of the slipstreaming they can get. Sandown's a very long circuit, 2 long straights, back and front, and if anybody gets away from you, you're out there pushing air by yourself, using up all your engine horsepower, and not getting the kind of speed that you really want.
Well, we saw the pass there with Jim Richards getting back past Dick Johnson. That shows you the gap as they come beneath the Dunlop Bridge. Richards goes through, then Dick Johnson, then Mark Skaife. Glenn Seton fairly close to that front-running 4 as they come past the pits and reel one more off. But I tell you what, and if John Bowe is going to conserve tyres, but he is getting it all to the ground now as he comes down the front straight. Fans love this, particularly the Ford fans, and Johnson starts out after Jim Richards. He'll pass him, but you'll find that Richards will have the lie to the left-hander.
Yes, there's no nasty driving there at all. It's Jim's prerogative to take the inside running. It's always force your opponent onto the outside, make him go a little extra distance, just like the runners on the relay running. You've got to take it the hard way around, and in that respect, Jim is just able to hold the Sierra off for another lap.
Well, the pace is picking up. John Bowe's just recorded a 1:14.81, which is about just under a second off his qualifying time.
This is pretty heady stuff at the top of the pack as here comes Jimmy Richards on the inside of Johnson. Johnson really needs to be where Jim is at that end of the straight, not on the outside.
No, he couldn't dare go from the outside there. That's a very tricky left-hander. It's 100-mile-an-hour plus, and certainly without the ability to drift the car through from the inside of the apex to the outside, down through the S's, you'd spin it in a flash.
Freddie Gibson and the Nissan boys are doing a terrific job with this GTR, even with its weight and power penalties. Mark Skaife's qualifying time yesterday was only 4/10 off the pole time they set here 12 months ago when the cars were in their full 600 horsepower form. So a lot of work going in on suspensions, brakes, tyres to get some more performance out of these GTRs, and they're certainly looking strong here at Sandown.
Well, the one who is making some ground up in 4th place, Glenn Seton, in the number 30 Peter Jackson car, sits in 4th. John Bowe, I tell you what, has opened up a gap over the rest of this mob. You would think he was running on nitrous oxide. Let's have a look at the restart, or the replay of the start, actually, from our race cam sitting on top. There you'll see the power to the ground advantages of the GTR, because Glenn Seton made a horrible start, got gobbled up here by about 6 or 7 cars, and then had to fight his way through. He's made it back up to 4th. Neil Crompton making life difficult here, but he got the run to the turn.
Well, you can't give anything away on any start, and certainly here at Sandown, where every inch onto those back straight counts, you're in trouble with a bad start.
And as we took that replay, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't in this business, but you can see that Dick Johnson has been able to get ahead of Jimmy Richards in car number 1. Now, they are clearly showing their superiority here today at Sandown, and I think that Glenn Seton would like to be part of the action here, but he would like to displace, if he could, 2 Nissans along the way. Bowe leads it by 3 or 4 seconds. Johnson in second, not too far behind is Jimmy Richards, Mark Skaife. Then, of course, comes Glenn Seton and Thomas Mazzera in the Holden Racing Team Commodore.
Well, Johnson doing nicely. He is driving it hard. We indicated earlier, Mike, that he's fired up this weekend. He knows that he's got a good car. He certainly knows the circuit, and he'll be keen to try and just get that extra little bit up this back straight, and you'll certainly see him fading to the right of your picture now. There he is, quite entitled to guard the corner at the top of the hill just in case Jim Richards comes up out of his draft, but Jim not actually close enough to do any damage at the moment. Glenn Seton gaining on the draft up the back straight, and definitely a force to be reckoned with at the moment. He's quite capable. He's got enough laps in front of him to do exactly what Dick has done. Filter his way through, weave his way through these two GTRs. In fact, the GTRs are running so closely that they're creating a tremendous roadblock, a snow plow in front for the air, giving Glenn Seton quite a nice opportunity here to sneak up on their back bumper bars.
We've got a brilliant day here at Sandown. The times are quick, good crowd in here, and a good race happening for us too. John Bowe in the Shell Sierra, car number 18, leads by 5.6 seconds from Queensland's King of Swing, Dick Johnson in the 17 car, and Glenn Seton again getting close to the tail of Mark Skaife.
Shell team are doing a fabulous job with these Sierras this year. And we take race cam on the top of Glenn Seton's Sierra. As he tries to hang on to the back of the Nissans. The Sierras and Nissans very evenly matched around Sandown.
This is all good stuff. There's some great pictures from our race cam team. You can listen to the gears now as they start to work their way up the back straight, the incline, up to the bridge.
6-speed gearbox, Mike. All the cars, lead cars, have got 6-speed gearboxes and certainly plenty of cogs to choose from. And I suspect that Mark Skaife is actually pulling out of the draft to keep his engine a little cooler. Heat on a turbocharger is anathema. They absolutely hate it. The power goes down as the heat goes up. So I think Mark was just pulling out to the left there to get out of Jim's slipstream, just to keep himself a little bit cooler. Perhaps save himself for a bit of a slingshot later in the race himself, but
this could be interesting. I don't think he's close enough to get a shot at him this time down the straight, because Skaife does get off that pit turn pretty quickly. Here comes Seton winding it up on the inside, but he'll run out of road before they get down to the next left-hander, maybe next time, but he'll have to cut a perfect lap sitting in behind Skaife this time. And Richards, as Allan has said, is starting to get away from Mark Skaife.
Well, Jimmy Richards, no stranger to Sandown. He's had some great laps around this circuit and some very substantial wins in his career. I don't think he's too concerned about where to place the steering wheel.
Mark Skaife leading this Nissan battle at the moment, also leading the championship after his success at Amaroo Park. He's on 30 points. His teammate Jim Richards on 27, Peter Brock on 24, Glenn Seton on 21 points, and Mark GIBBS on 19. So it's very tight at the front of the grid here, and certainly in the championship battle.
Well, this is a circuit that really, the slightest mechanical advantage, the very slightest mechanical advantage, does give a team tremendous competitive edge. And we're seeing here now 4 cars running in tandem, practically the rest of the field. There's Thomas Mazzara coming through in the HRT, Holden now in picture, but virtually the rest of the field is out of this race, and it just shows the competitiveness of the lead teams. They get things down, they cut fractions of millionths of a second to get an advantage, and around a circuit like this, it just pays dividends every lap, Mike.
Well, we saw Peter Brock spring a surprise, of course, winning the opening heat at Amaroo Park. We expect a little more of Peter today. Qualified poorly back in 11th spot, and he's drifted back to about 13th in the pack.
You can never tell exactly what compound tire is going to be the flavor of the month. The tire companies work very hard to produce a tire per circuit, but certainly with races on our schedule running a fortnight, a week to a fortnight apart, it's awfully hard sometimes not to use a tire that may not be exactly what you would have liked to. And I do believe that the Holden team at the moment is hurting for tires.
Well, Mark Skaife, of course, only 24 years of age. Career highlights. Naturally won the Tooheys 1000 at Bathurst in 91. And, of course, finished second in the Australian Touring Car Championship by Shell in 91. And, of course, leads the 92 championship on 30 points, besides being Australian Gold Star champion. So he had a lot to do, and he accomplished quite a lot last year. Has his hands full at the moment, though, as we show the Nissan GTR coming off past the pits, trailing Jimmy Richards still at this stage. That gap back to Seton about the same, and Bowe opening up probably out to 6 points something now, seconds over Dickie Johnson.
Well, John Bowe certainly seems to have this race in hand. He's got nobody to worry him. This is maybe quite draining on the 2 Nissans, and also Dick Johnson worrying about his second spot.
Well, Bowes
trying to get by. He just doesn't seem to have enough steam to get up close enough to Mark Skaife to do what Dick Johnson did earlier.
No.
Bowe's the only guy running in the 15s at the moment, and he's certainly opening up the lead. There's the HRT Commodore. We won't see a lot of this car this year. I think they're only scheduled to run 3 rounds, but boy, they're on the pace. I think Thomas was 1.5 seconds faster than Brock in qualifying, and the car had an unfortunate tail shaft failure this morning in the warm-up, but that won't slow them down. Thomas really enjoying his job with Holden Racing Team, and certainly showing a lot of competitiveness too.
He's up to 6th in the pack, Thomas Mazera. As he comes down to the left-hander. Pity they're not really running the entire Touring Car Championship. I mean, it is Holden's flagship, and hand-picking 3 of 8 or 9 races.
Not a big effort, really, is it? Any privateer
well, I
could
don't
do
think
that.
so,
Yeah.
particularly when you want some of the rules changed. I think most of the Holden spotlight this year is certainly going to fall on Peter Brock, Neil Crompton, Terry Finnegan, some of those guys. But Thomas doing a good job. Not complaining about Thomas. He's out there driving when he's allowed to drive and when they have enough budget. But I would have thought a Holden Racing Team enterprise controlled it by Scott.
Well, you know where they like to keep their money.
Yeah, I think Tom does. I think Tom should get the message about touring cars in Australia. Getting it pretty tight up here with Dickie Johnson and Jim Richards as we take Nissan race cam.
Well, we're getting towards the stage of this heat that if Dick Johnson hasn't been nursing his tires, he's got a good set of Dunlops on there today that have been serving him well over the last 2 days. But if he starts thrashing it around a little bit, it's going to be, it could be curtains for him if Jim sneaks up there. We know how durable the 4-wheel drive gets towards the end of a race, and he's certainly not what you call a long way away from Dick at the moment.
No, he's fairly close. Great shots as they come beneath the Dunlop bridge. Single file into the right-hander. Johnson still there, looking for a 1-2. John Bowe, teammate, leading this race by 6.9 seconds. They've covered the halfway distance, plus 1 lap this time past the start-finishing line.
Well, Jim Richards starting to pile on the pressure. He's slipped into the 15s now. A 15.8 recorded there, and Bowe has jumped up into the 16s. So maybe we might be seeing the tyres starting to play a few tactics in this, Allan.
Well, I'm sure they will, no matter what. This circuit is not all that hard on the tires up and down the main straights, obviously, but the cars still have to be thrown through these zigzag corners on the approach to each straight. They're quite demanding. They're 90-degree corners, and as careful as you try to use all the real estate on the road and make the job of the tire easier, there does come a time when you've got a fellow on your backside that you do push the car to its limit and naturally hurt the tires. But Dick Johnson holding his own here in second spot. His teammate out in front. A nice 1-2 for Shell here in the opening heat, followed by the 2 Nissan GTR Winfield cars, and then Glenn Seaton in the first of the blue Peter Jackson Sierras.
Bowe has opened the gap over the boss, 7.34 seconds on lap 11, so we're beyond half distance, and Bowe stabilising the lead at the front. The 2 Shell cars showing a lot of form now. Sierra's getting on a bit. It's 6th year in competition, and Shell team have just taken on Ross Stone as their team manager for this year, who formerly worked for the Kevin Waldock Play Skaife operation. Ross is obviously doing a terrific job with the old Fords. And Tony Longhurst commented yesterday and practiced, he's never seen the Sierras handling so well. He's really impressed with the development they're getting out of these cars.
It turned out to be, or it started off to be, a pretty crook day for Dick Johnson's team, as I mentioned at the top of the show, with John Bowe again yesterday, provisional pole, as he had at Amaroo Park. They went to the trophy dash where the top 6 actually draw for starting positions. John retained his front row starting spot. He drew 2, and then of course took off, looked like he was going to win it, and then the engine just detonated, and as a result of that, Dick Johnson went through to win and gained pole position. But Bowe has done a remarkable job in this field, starting out of position number 6.
Now that is very creditable, Mike, and I think
we'll check out that as we come back. Race score. John Bowe is your race leader in the Shell Sierra. Dick Johnson runs in 2nd. Jimmy Richards is 3rd. Mark Skaife 4th. Glenn Seaton is 5th. And we'll be back at Sandown in just a sec. Back here at Sandown Raceway, a problem for Colin Bond, the Caltex CXT Sierra. Colin was running around about 8th in the field, was settling into quite a good groove, but all of a sudden the car has given up the ghost and gone towards the pits on lap number 15, with approximately 5 remaining in this first heat of round 2, the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship from Sandown. Johnson going through in car number 17. The 2 Nissan still trail him. We won't worry Dick with race cam at this stage. But Alan, you might like be able to talk us around and exactly what Dick is doing and gears and the brakes.
All right, he just slammed her down from 6th down to 5th through the S's into 4th.
Down to 2nd, I am.
Oh, sorry. I beg your pardon. You're going to have to give me a ride here to refresh my memory. Okay, up to 3rd. Do it yourself, mate. You can talk your way through. You don't need me.
Yeah, really. There's oil everywhere, pal.
Uh-huh. Easy here on the left-hander. You had a little nudge here this morning in the trophy dash. Here we go. Nasty onto the straight. It's bumpy over the causeway.
Dick, this looks pretty good. Bowie's taken off like a scalded cat.
He must have my engine.
He must have. Someone's pulled a crook change on you this morning. He's opened up to about 6.5.
Yeah, I know. That's the gun engine I think they had for me for Simmons.
That's the one with the 8,500 RPM rev limiter on, is it?
Obviously.
Just keep going the way you are, mate. You're doing fine.
Oh, well, these old... You just got to try and keep the tyres on the thing.
Well, how much of a problem does that give you? I mean, obviously, you two guys are running at a fair pace. Bowie out 8.5 seconds now to you, and the two Nissans dropping back a bit. Can you conserve tyres?
Well, you know, it's just that the Nissans are so quick out of the slow corners that they just leave you standing. It takes everything to pick them up the straight to be able to pass them.
Well, I tell you what, I notice they're getting a bit closer again, banging on your butt, so we'll let you go. You put the head down.
Well, I'm just trying to keep the dog another 20 laps to do after this, buddy.
Yeah, well, I'll talk to you during that, but at the moment they're getting a little bit closer. Go for it.
Thanks.
BMW of Tony Longhurst, car number 25, stalking Larry Perkins. Larry, of course, is up to 7th spot. Longhurst, the best of the BMWs, in 8th posse, and still trying to change that. They've got 2 laps to go here at Sandown in the first heat, and Tony all over the tail here of Larry Perkins, and just about gets him all sized up in these very tight turns, but as soon as they hit the straight, Larry gets the grunt of that V8 going and is able to pull away from the Bimmer.
Well, every position counts here, Mike, because the finishing order of this heat is how they line up for the start of the second heat. So certainly Tony, 1 more point even, get by Larry, gives him another nice starting position for the second heat. Doesn't have to work his way all the way up from the back of the field.
And of course the Bimmer's running 20 kilos lighter here today. They obviously had a fairly good proposition put to cams that they were carrying far too much weight. And in just one show, that's called instant justice, isn't it? 20 kilos off the Bimmer.
Can I pass on this?
Yes, I think you should. There's our 2 Nissan GTRs, the 2 Winfield entries. Jimmy Richards, Mark Skaife. Great high shot showing them coming beneath Dunlop Bridge and then turning into the pit turn. Should get the 1 lap to go board now as they go across the strike.
John
Last
Bowe.
lap.
John Bowe still leading by around 8.5 seconds, so he's certainly got this race by the neck.
Mark Skaife running in 3rd spot. Jim Richards has dropped back a spot to 4th, and Glenn Seaton is 5th. That's the order, with one of the Bimmers coasting around the circuit. May well be Allan Jones. Doesn't sound like there's a lot of noise coming out of the car. He heads up the back straight now for the final time, and I'll tell you what, some folks in Tasmania who take in the 7 telecast will be delighted with this, because the next round of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship is next Sunday at Symonds Plains Raceway near Launceston, and that, of course, is not too far away from where John Bowe has been brought up. So he'll have a huge Tasmanian support behind him for next week's 3rd round of the championship.
Well, he has worked hard with the Dick Johnson team for a number of seasons, probably about 5 to my memory, and has backed up Dick on many occasions, but today he's taking the lead and showing us how to do it.
Sure is. It's good to see him come in for a win. He's really had pole position for the last 2 races, but he comes off the pit turn. Checkered flag time for John Bowe of Tasmania. He's going to do it very comfortably indeed. A 9-second break over team leader Dick Johnson in the number 17 car. 3rd place will go to Mark Skaife in the Nissan GTR. 4th to Jimmy Richards. And 5th will go to Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson Ford Sierra. Well, it looked like being a benefit for the Winfield GTRs, but they were able to be pegged back. The checkered flag goes out for John Bowe as we check them out on the Shell race score. Well done, John. John Bowe, your race winner. Dickie Johnson finishes in second spot, a 1-2 for the team. Mark Skaife in the Winfield Nissan third. Jimmy Richards is fourth, and Glenn Seaton in the PJ Sierra rounds out the 5. And we'll be back at Sandown in just a moment.